movie and you realize that this movie can make one feel very frustrated and sad and also powerless. And I noticed that during the movie there was a lot of...
Of course, that Tony Blair's British government had sold Gaddafi hundreds of millions of euros of weapons, and that the son who detonated this bomb had become politicized by his father, and with the knowledge of British intelligence had been traveling to and from Libya participating in these militias. And it was extraordinary in the election debate that over the course of these two events, the public discourse in the UK seemed to have changed. It's something that we still need to see. But it gives us, those sorts of things give us huge opportunity to ensure that information is getting out and that we talk to and engage with as many people as possible who maybe haven't thought about these issues before.
So, looking at the history...
And which really, I mean, it's the sort of poster child of everything that is absurd about the global arms trade. So he said, no, it's too expensive, it's a nonsense. And these foreign adventures and selling weapons to everybody, that's going to stop on my watch. It took him a matter of days in the White House before, the corrupt, in my opinion, it's not really an opinion, it's based on evidence, but the corrupt businessman that he's always been immediately saw what there is to offer in the arms trade. And what is one of the first things he did after saying he wasn't going to get involved in any of these foreign adventures or these arms deals? He sold what will be anywhere between $110 billion and $300 billion of weaponry to Saudi Arabia. And I would be prepared to put my head on a block publicly tonight and say, I have absolutely no doubt that he will benefit personally from that transaction. And it is simply a matter of whatever they say on the campaign trail, wherever they come from in the political spectrum, they revert to type. And the type is that they want to make war, because that's the easiest way to increase their political capital, and they claim it's defending their citizens when it's doing exactly the opposite, and there is money to be made personally and politically. And unfortunately, that's the reality of this trade, and it's why in all of my work, I try and emphasize that economic dimension to the trade, because unless you understand the venal corruption at the heart of it, that involves all of those implicated, you can't understand why these wars are being perpetuated in the way that they are. And, to bring it to what is closer to my home, the current South African president, Jacob Zuma, faced 783 counts of fraud, corruption, and racketeering in relation to that arms deal you saw a little bit about there. 783 counts. The charges were dropped 3 weeks before he was elected president by a prosecutor who 3 weeks after the election was made a High Court judge as his reward. And since then, Jacob Zuma and his family, and he has 24 children that we know of, have all become multi-billionaires through looting the democratic South African state. And it all started with that arms deal. And it all started with Tony Blair, British, German, French, and Italian arms companies. And they've destroyed a young, hopeful democracy in the process.
Okay. It just keeps getting more and more depressing. I'm sorry.
The reality is what we shouldn't be depressed about is that at least we're getting the information out there.
So it's transparency, really.
Exactly. What would be even worse is if it was as secretive as it's always been. And we're starting to break down that secrecy. And that's why we have a responsibility as citizens, wherever we happen to be in the world, to fight this notion that everything to do with defense and national security should be secret, because it allows the sort of criminality we saw in the film.
I have a gentleman here who's been raising his hand for a while. I think there's a microphone coming your way.
Thank you for your powerful film. That was really something. A question about a detail. I was confused in the film. The black figure was going down the line of children and hugging them, and then walks over and appears to blow up, and there's two other kids, and at least three of them die. What was that about?
It's a very good point. And the director and myself and the producers have had weeks of discussion about whether we should actually name it. It's children playing at being suicide bombers. So the point of it, I mean, the director likes the ambiguity of it, the fact that you're not sure whether this is real or not. What gives it away is that the bodies are all in one piece. So what they're throwing up is sand. So if they were actually explosives, the bodies would be in tiny pieces. And the reason we've left it in the film is to make the point that that region of the world, which as Chris Hedges, I think, very appropriately says, the problem of the Middle East is not so-called Islamic extremism. The problem of the Middle East is the war-making by particularly the United States, the United Kingdom, and others over generations and generations and generations. And it's got to the point where playing for children is playing at suicide bombers.
Up there, Jonathan?
Thank you, first of all, for enlightening us about this, well, in fact, shadow world. My question was actually also threats, or other people threatening you?
Interestingly, and I'll keep this brief because, I've only ever faced one direct threat in my life, which was when my first book, a book about the South African deal, came out, and one of the arms dealers involved in that book, who, amongst his other delightful activities, he acts as Robert Mugabe's weapons buyer and salesperson. So he operates in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where he gets mining concessions on behalf of Mugabe in exchange for weaponry and money. Delightful man. And after my first book came out, he sent me a letter, handwritten, hand-delivered to my home, to make the point that he knew where I lived, in which he said something along the lines of, never write about me again, never mention my name in public or in private conversation, which I found extremely weak. He said, otherwise you won't live to regret it. The first thing I did was I took the letter to the International Anti-Corruption Unit of the Metropolitan Police, who I was working with at the time and who I knew were working on this guy. And they basically said to me, don't worry about him, we watch him whenever he's in the UK. Turns out the International Anti-Corruption Unit of the Met Police was itself corrupt, and the two most senior officers had to be fired for accepting bribes for a Nigerian state governor they were investigating. But that's the only direct physical threat that myself, and when I say we, I talk about myself and my team, because I couldn't do this work on my own, obviously. The far greater threat we get is legal threats. So people try and sue us all the time when they have absolutely no basis to. So you'll see in Shadow World, a third of the book is actually footnotes. There are around 3,000 footnotes in the book. So everything we write, everything we put in a film, everything any of us say publicly, we have all the documentary evidence. Otherwise, we would have been sued, and because we couldn't afford to defend ourselves, we'd be in jail now. But some, particularly Russian oligarchs who we've written about, they have money to burn. So they try and push these cases all the way to court, because in the United Kingdom, to defend a libel and defamation suit, you have to show the court that you have access to £500,000, which of course we don't. So even when lawyers write to us and say our clients are suing you for this, that, and the other, we send them literally thousands of pages of evidentiary documents, and they try and push it for as long as they can, both so the lawyers can earn fees and in the hope that they will financially destroy us. And that's the biggest threat that we face. But I would just like to say that the people who provide us with information, the sort of lesser-known Edward Snowdens or Chelsea Mannings, they face the most awful dangers and personal insecurities. The whistleblowers who are featured in National Bird, these are the people who really put their own lives on the line, and I think it's these sorts of people, not people like me, it's people like that I think we should really honor and be incredibly grateful to for what they do and the risks that they take.
Elizabeth, you raised your hand, you had a question? Could you pass her the microphone?
As it happened, you very briefly mentioned Russian oligarchs there. My question was going to be, could you tell us a little bit of what you know about other nations' covert operations in arms sales, such as the Russian and Chinese influence, with large exports of armaments from China, for example?
Yeah.
And my comment would be also to the people you just mentioned and yourself to salute the courage of all these people. Thank you.
Maybe we collect two more questions and then because
let me just make a note of them, yeah.
So China
Okay.
and Russia.
China and Russia.
Helmut, you had a question?
Ja? Hallo? Darf ich reden oder? Ja? Okay. Also ich würde, I think it's, I'm not feel powerless by this film. I feel very angry because the people, that our politicians are so unbelievable lying. It makes me very angry, and they should all be in the international court. Or even our Chancellor, our German Chancellor, should get 10 years of prison because of it, at least 10 years. So I think this is very important, and this military is such a parasite. It's lying and living on all the money of this world. It's terrible expensive. So this is just one point, yeah. I think we should go on the street, and we should go. I would propose we go on the street at the manifesto of Feinstein in July, yeah, because they said no war anymore, and this would be a good thing.
Thank you. We have one more question. The lady over here on the left-hand side. Yes.
Hello. Thank you very much for your powerful and thought-provoking film. I just wanted to say that it resonated very much with the present situation in the Korean Peninsula and the situation where there have been requests for talks from both South Korea and North Korea over the last few weeks, and these have been ignored, and also I was reading something in the Financial Times about calculations as to how much profit there could be if there was a war on the Korean Peninsula, or at least that's an element of a possible war. And just wondered if you might comment on what you have presented and the present situation.
Russia, China, world leaders, legal action, the economics of it. Very quickly on Russia, China, there's obviously far more of them in the book, in Shadow World. We had to make the decision we had footage of them in the 4.5-hour rough cut and some coverage of their industries. The Russian industry was extremely important after the fall of the Soviet Union, obviously, because there was all this surplus equipment that various dealers, you would have heard the names of people like Victor Put and others, made tens of millions selling into conflicts around the world. The reality is, though, that there is a hierarchy of the desirability of weaponry. And at the top is American weaponry and Israeli weaponry, because of the technical quality of it, and in the case of America, the sort of political clout that comes with it. So that's always the first choice of people who are buying weapons. The second choice is some of the European producers, the United Kingdom, Germany, France and Italy for certain things, but they can't compete with the American